In this interview, I want to find out how a man who had been staying with the Chamber of Commerce since 1986 and helped quadruple the reach of the Chamber to over 20 plus ethnic Asian communities. And I have here today is Mr. Galileo Jumaoas. He's the president of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce, helping its member toward business and economic development. And he's also the executive director of the Multi-Ethnic Education and Economic and Development Center, providing education, business, and community development to low to moderate income individuals from multi-ethnic cultural population in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Welcome, Gal.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Gal, I heard that you use the analogy of the salad bowl a lot when describing the role of the chamber. Would you, talk more about that to the audience?
Well, first of all, the analogy of the salad bowl is used by our founding chairman, Robert Chu, during his interview presented to the community partners. The salad bowl is actually the picture of the different Asian community or different groups from representing different countries from Asia. So that is how he uses the analogy. And the chamber is the dressing, gels, makes the different groups, in a salad, tasty and tastes good and looks good. So now that is what he used. For me, I am going to start first of all, when you work with these communities and with the Chamber of Commerce, you have to start from the basic philosophy and your belief that for me, man is basically good. Now there might be some problems and changes and challenges in his life that limits or restricts him to come out as a good person. And then you can apply this to the different communities. And you have to have this trust in them. So when I came over, of course from Philippines, I was an ordained Catholic priest. I still have that basic philosophy and belief that man is good.
It's good first, based on that philosophy.
Based on that philosophy. Now, as I mentioned to you, the environment and the changes around him, all the different pains and sorrows and all the different influence external restricted him to become good. So it's our job, especially when I was a priest, to come out, to make sure that they come out good. And we call it in the fundamental law in the church, when I was involved in the church, fundamental law of the church is the salvation of souls. But I came to realize that it's not just souls, but it has to be the salvation of man, the total man, the totality of man. Which now, when it comes to here in the United States, I felt that the vehicle to achieve that is not just the church, but also the Chamber of Commerce as the vehicle that we can use to achieve our basic mission, which is to make man come out good.
Gotcha.
And then we translate that to business, economic development. But we didn't start that way here in Dallas. When I came in 1986, there were several different groups in the Metroplex, and several leaders come together. They were challenged also by this situation that we need to be heard politically. So the call of the time was political empowerment. So our founding chair, Robert Chu, uh, formed the Asian American Voters Coalition. It's more of empowering our communities politically to vote and to be heard in the political arena. So we formed the Voters Coalition, and the group started supporting candidates, public service candidates for senators, for congressmen here in the Metroplex.
Gotcha.
And there were only a couple of countries, communities represented. First of all, the Chinese, which is basically the Taiwanese that during the time.
Let
And
me
then,
come to because my next question will ask you to talk more about that. So I understand that you volunteered at the chamber back in 1986, and
yes,
then about 9 years later, in 1997, you became the president of the chamber.
1997, that's the time when the leadership said, "Oh, we have this guy who's been volunteering here for us. Why don't we hire him as the staff of the chamber?" Since there was an opening through the partnership between the chamber and Dallas Independent School District, there was a job opening at the chamber for education director, which is basically to help Dallas School District recruit teachers, find mentors and tutors for the kids, and of course mobilize the different Asian businesses to support the school of the Dallas Independent School District. So that's how it started, 1997. I became the education director. It's only on 2007 that I became the president. So there was still a long period wherein I got involved in the chamber from 1997 until 2007, almost like 10 years. I was the education director, business development director. I was the loan manager. I was the editor of the newsletter. So, and became also the executive or business assistant center manager of the Mead Center. And those are the different positions I went through until I became president in 2007.
Gotcha. What I wonder what brought you to the chamber initially back in 1986, and then
Well,
you stayed with them for over 9 years until 1997 when you became the education director.
right. Well, it is. I don't know if it is the calling or it's just by accident or have. I was on my way. I was to be as a priest. I was called to attend ongoing studies in Rome for 5 years, but I stayed here for a while before proceeding to Rome to visit my mom, my mother, and of course my sister, who were here already ahead of me. So I stopped by Dallas, and that's how I timed it. While waiting for my travel to Rome,
Gotcha.
I stayed here, and that's where I volunteered in different works for the chamber, and that's also how they found me and recruited me to become a member of the staff of the Greater Dallas Asian American Chamber of Commerce.
Let's travel back to time in 1997. Can you talk about the landscape of North Texas economic development and Asian community, also the current state of the chamber at that time?
Well, the chamber at the time, in general, the Asian American community leaders were challenged to get involved and engage themselves in mainstream America. So instead of just doing our own silos, the different communities, there was a time now that we have to respond to the different calls and challenges in our community, most especially here in Dallas Metroplex. And of course, it has some reflections in the national level. But here, that was the time that we have migrations of different countries from Asia, and we can see the increase, the growing population. And one of them was the migration of the refugees from Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thai, and they were here because City of Dallas is one of those cities who accepted the refugee program. So now they're here. The chamber was challenged to respond. It was the City of Dallas, through our partnership with the City of Dallas, who challenged us to respond to this growing population in the Metroplex. And that was the role of the chamber. It was starting as small, but later on, you can see in history, we grow a lot because of the legacy or the leadership also who took over the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that they respond to the call in our community.
At that time in 97, how many communities did you have under the chambers?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, there were only at least 4 major communities that were represented: the Taiwanese, Vietnam, India, and Korea. There was no Pakistan, no other groups. The Philippines may be there, but it was minority, and well, it has its own growth dynamics in this Metroplex. So, and then it started growing when we already formed the chamber, and we developed several programs and events. One of those is which we don't see here anymore, we call it the Asian Charity Ball. The Asian Charity Ball is a showcase of all the Asian groups. That's how we were able to recruit more groups into this event, and then later on recruit them to become members of the chamber. The Asian Charity Ball, it was the showcase, cultural showcase of the different countries of Asia. And we feature every year one particular country. And that's how we also got noticed by corporate America when they attend the big gala event. It's a big fundraising gala event here in Dallas. And then after that, the charity ball funds was also used to help support the refugees. And thus we were able also to show our work towards the refugees.
So how many jobs did you help create for the influx of refugees back in 97?
Well, what we did there at first, that's how the Mead Center was formed, because most of the refugees were relocated in the East Dallas area, and the chamber was in North Dallas. So what we did, we opened up a satellite office in East Dallas, and we created the programs for the refugees, primarily for the refugees, then secondarily for the other ethnic groups like the African American, Hispanic, Russians, and there were some other groups that participated in that program. The Mead Center was called the Little Asia Office of the Greater Dallas Asian American Chamber of Commerce. It's a little bit long, but we changed it to Mead Center later on. But it is a different designated function because Mead Center is a 501c3, a nonprofit 501c3 as compared to the chamber. It's a nonprofit, but it's 501c6. It's a chamber of commerce, and it has membership based. So you can see, although the Chamber of Commerce provides programs and services to its members, the Mead Center provides programs and services to include non-members, the wider community and wider ethnic beneficiaries segments in our community. So that's why it opens up our area of growth for membership to the chamber to grow.
So back in '97, how did you reach out to community leaders and then enroll them to the chamber? How do you provide all the, how you build trust to them and show them that here's the chamber value, so come join us. How do you do that back in '97?
First of all, the chamber is a vehicle for leadership. So what the chamber did was to identify some leaders in the community and invite them to become part of the leadership by becoming board members, or you get them engaged or involved in the different committees. Now, committees are the groups that really run the different programs and projects and events. So all these, they started creating some, organizing some events like the awards banquet, the scholarship, education banquet, and we have these different mixers, just like any other Chamber of Commerce. They do some networking mixers, events, and the largest one was the biggest one was the Asian Festival. And that generated interest from the different communities who were probably not known, who were just doing their own little things in their own little communities, but they started coming out. And coming out into these events, we spotted some leaders, and we get the leaders get involved, get engaged, and then at the same time take the leadership role in the chamber. And that's how the growth started. With the growth of the membership, the growth of the program started to come out also. And that's why we added several programs. We added later on the Leadership Tomorrow program. We formed the Asian American Contractors, and to respond to the political work, we formed the DFW Asian American Citizens Council, and to respond to the needs of the people looking for loans, and we formed the Intermediary Lending Program, and we formed also the CDC Southwest, which is really a financial institution which will help and respond to the needs of our members who are looking for 504 loans, like $2 million loan for a building or for their business. So there were so many programs created, and out of those programs comes out the growth of different organizations I mentioned earlier. The different Asian Citizens Council, the Leadership Tomorrow, we have the Asian Contractors Association, and finally we grow further out of our own territory. We formed the Texas Federation of Asian American Chambers of Commerce.
So I understand it right. So you use physical events to boost your growth, correct?
Yes, you have to have to create an event wherein members or individuals get engaged. You have to have this motion, this action, this activity. Otherwise, if there's no project or event, there's no motion, there's no activity, life, it will become dead. There's no activity or movement within our community. So it's good that the leadership from the board and to the committees, they form these activities, they organize these events, and that's how you generated not just the Asian community, but the non-Asian community we get noticed, and they get attracted to our chamber, and that's how also we grow. Our membership is not just Asians. We have membership from the Hispanic, African American, and Anglo communities. So that's how the growth developed.
Very well, very well. Now, back in 2013, right now, how many members or communities that the chamber has right now?
Right now, we have 22 communities.
22 communities, okay.
22 now, from 4 went to probably 10, and then in 1997, when I became the director or the director for education, 1997, I saw already 17 groups, and then until now it developed into 20 last year, and then become 22 different representations.
Yes.
And you can see
Members.
as members, yeah. And then those members, you can see them as individual members, but at the same time, you can see them as group members, because we have some nonprofit community organization, community centers. We have temples, we have clubs, we have associations. Their membership may be just one, as in one name, but they have also members below that, maybe 100 or 200 members under that. And that's how we influence, and that's how we reach out to the communities through those associations, organizations, to those community centers, to those churches and temples in our under our umbrella.
So how is the landscape of North Texas economy development and the Asian community development in 2013 different from those in 1997?
Well, there is still the growth, and you can see it by census and by facts and figures and statistics coming from the national level or the state level or local level. The purchasing power of the Asians are still the largest, the higher purchasing power. It was like 239 billion purchasing power, and we have an average of 50,000 household income. Compared to the other ethnic groups, Asian is still on the top. We might be small in quantity, but in our purchasing power and our economic status, we are still either in the middle or advanced with compared to the other groups. And so you can see it even without looking at facts and figures. If you just drive around town, drive around the Metroplex, you see so many Asian businesses growing, either from moms and pops restaurants, saloons, donut shops. You can also see hotels, motels. You can see these are owned by Asians, and you can also real estate buildings and real estate properties, investments inside the entire Metroplex. So it's a tremendous growth. I should say 200%, I should say, increase, not just in demographics, but also in economics. So that's how I see the growth of our community.
So with the availability of Facebook, LinkedIn, and the explosion of social media tools, how do those tools and technologies help you, along with the physical events, help you boost the growth of the chambers in 2013?
Well, first of all, if you look at the type of Asian groups we have here, Asian demographics, 65% are computer literate and owns all these gadgets that you mentioned, computers, smartphones, iPad, Asians in general. And as those tools, they were able to use it to enhance their business and, of course, to grow their business. Well, at the Chamber of Commerce, what we do is to expose them, those businesses, to the social media. And as much as possible, we hold 3 times a year social media workshops or conferences to help them get attuned and make the tools and the technology as the tool for growing their business. And as you notice also, if you examine the membership of our chamber, there's a high level also of membership on the technology industry within the Asian community.
So you said back then in 1997 that you used physical events to attract more people and boost the growth. How did you have the fun back then to host more events? Because hosting events it's costing money, right?
Oh yeah, of course that's another side of our leadership. The leadership during the time, starting from the chairman, their main job is really to raise money. That's basically the role of a nonprofit board, fund development, raise more funds. Now, the methods or the tools or the process that we use at times that our chairman or the current leadership board, we look for partners. And of course, there's so many corporate partners interested in the Asian community because we are also an rising market. The Asian market is a rising, emerging market here. So most corporations would like to work with them and penetrate those markets. And one channel that you can use is through the Chamber of Commerce. So corporate partners, they love to partner with us. They give us money. They sponsor events. They share their contribution as partners of the chamber. So we have different levels of membership and partnership with them. And events, of course, if we organize those events, we get those sponsors. And that's how you generate revenue. Membership dues may be still there as a constant because members pay their dues to the chamber so that the chamber will survive, will live, and will exist to help them at the same time grow their business. And it has so far held its role and function towards membership development. So that's how we generate revenue for the chamber. And when we organize our foundation, when we set up the Need Center as the Chamber Foundation, we started receiving grants. Grants from the federal government, grants from the state level, the governor or office, and also grants from the local, from the city. And that's those money, that grants that we receive, we use it to run the operations of our organization.
Excellent. So you said majority of the magical funding is at least from the board, those board members or those so partnership with the corporations.
Yeah.
And the grant from the government.
And they grow partners. Some of them have sustained until this year. We call them our sustaining corporate partners. But at the same time, we come out with new partners, like Metro PCS, Samsung just stayed on board 2 years ago, and now is still on board with us. And there will be new partners every year that is added to our organization's partnership.
What are some of the threats that you see to the chamber?
At the same time, yeah. Since we are strong, when you become strong, those things that you create sometimes will be your threat. One example is that most member communities that we help, even groups that we help, or local chambers that we form, they're growing just like children. When they grow up, they started ignoring you or forgetting about you, and they do their own business, and at the same time, it may appear that they become your competitors, trying to grab a share of the pie that you used to have for many years. Now the pie getting smaller because you have to share it with them. So that's one of the challenges. But at the same time, we have to look for new ways, innovative ways to grow the organization. We should not fear their growth. So if you see some communities growing, they are now becoming independent, and they have their own centers, they have their own nonprofit organizations, they have their own leadership. You should be happy with that because you have contributed, you made a difference now in the community. But at the same time, you have to look for new ways, innovative, creative ways of taking the lead. So you you don't just stay stagnant. As a Chamber of Commerce, you have to work up with something newer, something different, and something probably bigger, bolder goals. Like now, this year we started picking up the role for our international work. Our Chamber of Commerce, by the way, by nature is international. Our board is like a mini United Nations of different countries there represented. But we have to use that power, that strength we have to go and get engaged in other work, like international work. So we are doing some trade missions now. We are going to Korea in October, maybe Vietnam in November, although we have been going to China and India for the last years. But we have to continue finding new horizons, new frontiers to grow, because we're not just limited here in our own backyard. We have to go out, and international or global is the way to go.
I saw that for some of the pictures that you took like a group of entrepreneurs or businesses to Korea or to China. How was that coming along?
Oh, well, they have their own. Once we connect them, they continue on their own, their business, until probably they come back being members. Sometimes they come back to us asking for more help and more connections, more networking, and probably ask for our advocacy work, Chamber being the voice and the advocate for our business. Sometimes our members run some challenges, so we come back and continue helping them. But our role right now is to provide opportunities to our members to do international or global business. And we provide opportunities. We don't do the business for them. We just provide those opportunities for them. So we organize international workshop sessions, trade sessions, more educational session learning on how to do business overseas and how to do business partner with global business. So that's what the Chamber does, providing opportunities for our members to work global business.
So you're saying, what do you see what's the vision for the Chamber in the next 3 or 5 years?
I'm looking at the next 3 to 5 years will be expansion. We did already our consolidation, but now we're going to do some expansion work now. Expansion could be done in the local level. That's why we open up a new office, another office in Plano, because of the movement of Asian demographics towards the north. By north, I mean Collin County, Denton County, towards those cities in those counties like Plano, Frisco, McKinney, Allen, and our members are moving towards those directions as citizens or residents of those cities and counties. So we open up a satellite office, or I should say branch office in Plano, with the hope that it will help service those businesses and those members who are in those areas. We can do expansion work by consolidating our federation. We have our chapter members in San Antonio, Houston, and Austin. And that's why this coming October we have this regional conference of the 4 chapters. They'll be coming here. We are the host. And that's as far as state level. We will continue expanding our organization in the national level. So far, there's no national structure we can plug in to become visible in the national level. It could be probably holding an office or partnership in Washington, D.C., California, which we already have attempted several times to link ourselves with national organizations like the in Kaaba and Kaabo in California and in the East Coast.
Let's switch
So
gear a little
that's
bit and talk about the Mead Center, which is another sister of the Asian American Chambers. Can you talk more about how's the role of Mead Center, how how does it fit into the Asian American Chambers vision?
well, as I mentioned to you, the Mead Center is the foundation arm of the chamber. Partners, organization, companies, sometimes they work with you in different manners. Like if you are doing business, you can work with the chamber. But there are some partners, companies, groups, or even individuals who would like to donate their money or allocate their funding portion to a non-profit 501c3 IRS designated foundation like the Mead Center. And we will provide that opportunity to them. So now there may be other non-profit 501c3s or there may be other foundations out there, but we are going to present the Mead Center as their alternative because the funding that the Mead Center gets from these companies, the funding that it receives will be used to support the following. Number one, those refugees who are here trying to adjust and integrate into society by finding a job, by starting a business, and also by empowering, educating their community. So the Mead Center provides those opportunities. By the funding that it receives, it provides free computer classes, it provides ESL, English as second language, it provides different workshops and training on how to start your business and how to connect and expand your business. So Mead Center uses those funds, and at the same time, while the needs of the refugees and the needs of the unemployed, which is the second group that we are trying to respond to in the Mead Center, because there are so many unemployed, and we are attempting right now the new type of unemployed, which are the veterans, the returning veterans from Afghanistan and from Iraq and from other places. They come here with no jobs. So funding from, let's say, from the governor's office will be used by Mead Center to train veterans to start a business or to expand and grow their business so that will be incorporated back into our society and make sure they have the opportunity to live again a normal life as citizens in our country, coming from war from Afghanistan and from other countries. So that's another.
I'm sorry. How are you? I just kind of curious. How do you attract those resources and sort of like a provider or service provider to help train people coming to the Mead Center for help to find a job or to start a business or things like that?
Well, we have to let them know because some of our partners, some of these groups, companies, foundations, and even the different government entities, probably they don't know that there are still refugees coming in. So the first thing we have to do is to let them know by probably writing a proposal, a narrative, a story. We have to tell our story. We have to tell them that these are the stories, the lives of our people in the community we are serving. And then they respond. Some of them respond by saying, okay, we have funding here. would you like to apply for this? So we apply, we write grants. That's why in a need center we need to have a grant writer, because that's the person that will be telling the story to these companies. And then they hear them, they hear the stories, and they like to respond because some of their stakeholders and members and donors love to support this type of groups, refugees, unemployed, veterans. So they provide the money. We call it in the form of a grant. And this is where the Mead Center will raise funding for its programs and services.
So let's say if I were a refugee or a veteran coming back from the war, how do I get started with the Mead Center?
Well, we invite them. We let them know. There are several channels of, you can use the social media, but there are some other traditional channels, like you talk to the different institutions like the Institute for Refugee Center, the Catholic Charities, the Workforce Solutions. There are some agencies here who are taking some data information of the unemployed. And right now there's probably around 37,000 in the database looking for jobs, and at the same time probably wanting to start a business as an alternative to finding a job. So, and that's where we get them. We let them know. We send out flyers. We have partners. We have partners in service. We let them know, and that's how we generate attention for them to come to the Mead Center and participate in those programs provided.
Gotcha. Let's say if a person, if they're interested in doing or expanding to Asian market, how do they find the Asian chambers, and how do they get started with the chamber?
Yeah, depending on their needs. There are some people wanting like to penetrate the Chinese market or the Vietnamese market. We sit down with them one-on-one and examine their strategy or what is their plan, and then chamber provides them the following, provides them some guidelines on to how to handle the community, because there are some cultural idiosyncrasies of some of these communities. Like Vietnam is different culture from Korean or from Chinese or Taiwanese. So we have to guide some of these companies or corporations who would like to do business with them culturally. Second one would be to help them identify some sectors of leadership within the community. That's how you start with the chamber. Like if you want to go to the Vietnamese market, probably you can start working with our board member who is from Vietnam. You're going to start working with the Chinese or Korean market, you can probably talk to Mr. Kim or Mr. Lee to operate and start that. Then that's how we connect those companies through our chamber, through the community.
Absolutely. So what's the website again that they can go to?
If you want to start with the chamber, it's www.gdaacc.com.
Perfect.
And then for the Mead Center, it's just www.meadcenter, meedcenter.org.
Perfect.
So gdac.com, meadcenter.org. And you can navigate there and then just follow the navigation where you want to go. You can extract whatever tools you need for your business, or extract whatever names or contact information you need to network and to connect. So yeah, chamber is still the business connections.
Oh, I heard the initiative that the chamber is going to release a member directory. Can you talk more about it?
Well, a publication, normally in the past, the last 10 years, we do small publications of our magazine. We started with 4 pages of newsletter, printed newsletter, and then we started. Then we followed with 20 pages of Chamber magazine. It's called Business Connections. But this year, the membership has taken a bold step by publishing a directory. It is not just a directory of the members, but a directory of our Asian community, our partners, and our programs and services in this area. So it's a publication of a directory of our chamber. And it will come out probably either October or the latest will be January in time for our installation. We are going to install the new leadership of the chamber January 2014.
Very well, very well. Gal, last question for you. How do you want to be remembered?
Well, the highest purpose in life for me, the highest purpose in life is really making a difference. Now, you could see this you talk to individual members, whether I, myself, or the chamber have made a difference in their life. By difference, I mean, if you were only $40 last year, now you became 40,000, and then you become 4 million this year and 40 million next year. You can see measurably the difference. You can see also the difference from our members who before was so shy. He doesn't know how to network. He doesn't know how to talk in public. But now they're confident. They feel good, and professionally they know how to deal with themselves, and of course how to face the challenges in life. That's the difference. And if you look at the different communities, you can see if the community has already grown. One thing, like before they were only in their own silos. Now they're coming out. They know how to appear in public, and they want to show their events. So because through the chamber, they were able to be connected with mainstream or corporate America, and able to meet leaders in the community and identify themselves as part of the society that we live in. So that is making a difference. So in that case, I can tell myself, well, I have achieved the highest purpose in my life, that making a difference in the lives of others within the chamber, and perhaps also indirectly outside the chamber's environment.
Very well. Thank you so much, Gal, today for your time and give us a talk about your stories and your achievements. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Michael. Hope to see you and hear from you, and also read about ourselves.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening.
Very good. Thank you.
Bye, Gal.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.